The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, Earnestly Speaking podcast. Let's get it. I'm a giant in New York, in Miami carry heat. So much more in store, my product can flood the street. Opinion Nation Godfather, CEO. Puff in the late 90s, gon' see me blow. Oh. Got my hustle on, no imitation of that. Army of untouchables, Opinion Nation staff. Never an off season, homie, check the numbers. Heart throbbing my own right, supplying southern comfort. Earnestly speaking, my ego is well fed. Earnestly speaking, you're too evil and no threat. See, I'm like a hurricane, you're a mild breeze. Earnestly speaking, leaving Eli a dynasty. Shake!
Earnestly Podcast coming to you Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. It is NBA Finals week. Well, it's 2 more days ago to the finals, game 1. And of course, joined every week by our man, Greg Hrinya, NBA analyst, author. I'm not going to lie to you, Greg. I actually like this little break from, well, when I say no sports, I mean, it's still baseball. I'm a baseball fan, but I kind of like the last couple of days, like not having anything to look forward to. Just kind of like, okay, I can watch a movie here or Mets game here or just kind of breathe a little bit before, tomorrow Stanley Cup Final starts tomorrow, and then you have the NBA Finals on Thursday before the storm, the calm before the storm, they call that. I like the little break.
Yeah, it's interesting because I said to my girlfriend yesterday, I'm like, there's no sports on later. And I don't think she believed when I said, like, actually no sports. Like, there's no hockey, there's no basketball, there's no football, the baseball. There was no Yankees yesterday, and the Mets were playing at 10 o'clock. So, like, there was nothing, like, locally or, like, playoff nationally for me to watch. So it was, like, kind of a different experience. So,
which, by the way, I did stay up for last night to watch the Mets game. Because it was it's the Dodgers. We're playing. It's 4 games seconds to champs.
Yeah, I had the game on, but I went to bed in like the 5th inning, and I think I'm glad that I did because when I woke up, I saw that it went into extra innings. So I'm like, that game probably ended at like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. So are you a Met guy or Yankee guy?
I'm a Met guy.
Oh, you're a smart guy. I mean, torture.
Yeah.
No matter how many teams you root for, like you always have that one team that in whatever sport it may be, that like it's frustrating as hell. And to me, that's the Mets. Like the Giants have been bad for a good 14 years now, but they've won a couple Super Bowls. I mean, I've been alive for all 4 Super Bowls, but 3 of the 4 I've been aware. Obviously 90, of course, being the first one for me. But then like even the Heat, they won championships and been successful in the last 20, 25, 20 years. The Rangers got a Stanley Cup actually, 30 years ago, but they've been to the Cup like within the last 10 years. The Mets is a team. Like went to the World Series in 15, and that was a great run, and they've done a couple cool things here and there. But they're that team for me is like frustrating. I was alive at 86, but I couldn't appreciate it. I was 6 years old.
Yeah, I'm not a diehard baseball fan, but like I will root for the Mets. My dad was a Mets fan when I was growing up, so they're my team. Just like with hockey, I'm a Devils fan, but I was much more into it when I was a kid and when I was in high school than I am now, just because like at that time of year I spent so much time watching basketball that there's just not enough hours in the day to watch hockey while you're also watching 2 or 3 basketball games a night.
Just wait till you have kids.
Yeah.
It's like funny, like my sports fandom, through the years, it's evolved because and a lot of it has to do with life. Like either it's, adding to a family, getting married, having children, or getting more interests. So growing up, I just have the time of day to watch any sport. I'll watch hockey. I'll find a way to watch hockey and basketball at the same time, even though their seasons go perpendicular. I would find all kinds of ways to watch my sports. And then little by little, you start realizing like, okay, well, I have this interest now. I have that interest now. I'm into music. And so you got to start making sacrifices on which sports can you do away from. And for a lot of time, baseball and hockey were the 2 sports that really kind of, even though I did watch it, it was not priority number 1 for me anymore. And now, even today, I struggle with that too. I love hockey, but if I'm going to pick NBA League Pass versus a hockey game, I'm picking the NBA League Pass any day on Sunday. That's how it is. So I do follow hockey. I know what's going on. I watch the highlights of the games, but NBA first for me, NFL first for me also when they're back, and in college football for that matter. So But yeah, it's funny how it transitions. You know, your as your life evolves and you get older, like you start picking and choosing the things that you prioritize, and some things fall through the cracks. So
yeah, I was watching Departed the other night
the movie.
for like the 15th or 20th time. So it's funny. You're just going on YouTube TV and scrolling down, and you're like, oh, I'll watch that. So
Isn't it amazing though? Like you'll have all like, and you know this too in the era of content now. Like we're so overwhelmed with content in any form, where it's podcast and in sports and movies and TV shows and all that. And yet sometimes it's so much easier to put on the tried and true things, the things that you just watch so many times. So my wife and I, we're actually for like probably the 20th time since we've been married, watching Sex and the City reruns. You know what I mean? And what we're doing from what we did all 6 seasons. We're going through the movies now, and we're gonna watch they've done a thing now. The last couple of years, they've done a continuation of the show. In I think the 3 seasons in now, but we saw season 1 when it first came out. So we're watching that now. We're watching the stuff that we've always watched. So it's like we're not getting content clipped off that we haven't watched yet. We always fall back to the things I guess they call it comfort food.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I know it's great acting, great writing, but I mean, let's face it, like my girlfriend and I we watch Summer House, like we'll watch Top Chef, like we watch reality shows too. So I mean, it's not, yeah. So she got me hooked into the Summer House show. I kind of like trashy TV, but it's like she had it on, I'd be watching basketball, and then it's like you're looking up, and then before you know it, it's like, oh, don't watch it without me. So,
were you ever a real world fan growing up?
No, I wasn't. I would say a little before my time. Like I was born in.
Wait, how old are you again?
I was born in '87, so I'm 38. So I mean,
you might
like
my wife's age.
Like, wasn't like Real World 2000 a thing? So I mean, like, I guess I was like in my early teen years at that time.
So I got into it like in '94. Like I got into it. I got into it late actually. I got into it like '99 actually. But the seasons I watched the most is like San Francisco through '94 through 2002. Like everything else on the edges, I don't care for. I just watched it. There was one summer I got into it. In '99, I was home with my grandmother, and just all of a sudden, there's like a marathon of Real World Hawaii, and I started watching it, and I got addicted to it. And then I stopped watching it after a couple of years. I was like, okay, I'm over reality TV. You know what I mean? Every now and then I'll pop in and watch. I'll watch watch a season just because it's on YouTube. You know, if it pops up on the algorithm. But
yeah, and then the Top Chef, like we both love to cook, so I mean that's like a natural, like to just watch it and like see if you can get inspired by different dishes.
I wish I had a desire to cook or learn how to cook and a passion for it. Dude, seriously, I would save so much money.
Yeah.
Well, are you a chef though?
No. I'm not a chef, but I love cooking. Like
you're a food connoisseur.
What's that?
So you're a food connoisseur.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, like Gordon Ramsay, his mentor Marco Pierre White. Like I love watching like their bios. Like you'll see all these YouTube videos. Like and some of these shows. Like I was watching. It was a TV show from England back in I don't know late '80s, early '90s with Marco Pierre White, who was Gordon Ramsay's mentor. And like I've watched these videos numerous times, but it's just like so inspiring to see like how meticulous the guy is with the food and his philosophies on food and on life and all that. So, I mean, like, I really can get inspired by that stuff.
Yeah. All right, so we're about 9 minutes into the podcast and haven't discussed a link with basketball just yet. It is NBA Finals week. The finals we all thought we would see before the year started, Thunder and Pacers. We all predicted it, right? I know you did, right? Come on now.
Well, we all had the Thunder, so we were right on 50% of it. So
yeah, I actually had Mavericks and Knicks before the year started.
Okay, I thought when we did our podcast, I thought we both had Boston and Oklahoma City. So
no, in the we probably had that going to the playoffs. Probably. I think
we might have had like that might have been like our mid-year like trade deadline.
Maybe, but back in October when it was all fresh, everything was 0-0. I went Mavericks and I went Knicks. Obviously, lots happened since then. The Mavericks. I mean, Luka Doncic. I had it winning MVP. I had Jason Kidd winning Coach of the Year, and there's a clean sweep. And then, of course, that whole thing blew up pretty quickly. You know, him going and traded to the Lakers. You know, it is what it is, man.
But I mean, going forward, Dallas is still in good shape. They got incredibly lucky and they got a lifeline, and obviously didn't work out for this year. But like, I wouldn't write them off for like.
Oh, absolutely.
I think Flagg will be able to step in right away and play. I don't think that there's going to be any like learning curve. I mean, he was working out with Team USA when he was 17, and everyone was wowed by how good he was. So I mean, I think that, I know we're getting off on a tangent, but I think that
No. So I'm gonna ask you a question in a second about that. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. So I think Dallas might be better than okay, because you're never gonna have to worry about Cooper Flagg's work ethic, which is the reason why they traded Luka.
Right, and this is why I still stand by what I said the day they got the pick. They revealed number one pick in the draft. That people are saying, "Oh, should trade the pick?" No, because now you have the best of both worlds now. Like, if you to assume that, again, this is a big assumption because these guys don't stay healthy, but if Kyrie and AD are healthy and healthy at the right time, you have now Flagg, who's already there on a rookie deal as is. Okay, you now work on two timelines. You can have the win now scenario, and then when AD and Kyrie disperse in a couple of years, then announce Flagg's team. It's common sense.
Well, it's a couple of things. One, I think that he's probably the most win now rookie that you're going to find. Like, it's not like Ace Bailey where like that's going to be
a project.
Years. Yeah, he's a project, and then that's not saying that he's not going to be an all-star someday. It's just that I don't think he's going to step into, like, let's say Philly drafts him. I don't think he's going to step in and just start dominating. I think he's going to have to learn the game. He's going to have to fill out his body. And second, with regard to Dallas, I don't know that the owner would greenlight a trade of the first pick after seeing what he went through with trading Luka. I think that he has to realize that this is a lifeline to regain a lot of the fans that became apathetic or downright pissed that they traded him. This is a second chance, and I don't think, even if it's for Giannis, I don't see him saying we're going to go with giving up this possibility of having 10 to 12 years of another Dirk-like player. I'd be really surprised if they traded the pick for multiple reasons. So
I wouldn't do it. I think it's a bad idea. But
yeah, likewise.
Yeah. All right. So Pacers, Thunder. A lot of the narratives as we got closer to, when people start realizing that this is going to be a reality. Oh, big market teams, and no one's going to watch this finals because it's OKC, Indiana. I'm sorry, I judge you and your basketball loyalty, because if you don't realize that this is going to be a phenomenal, aesthetically speaking, a phenomenal series. Now, however it may go prediction wise, we'll see how it goes. If you don't realize how this is a great series for basketball watchers, a purist, then you're not a fan. Like, turn in your card.
Yeah, I think that New York is obviously a huge market, but Indy is going to be more, regardless of how the last series went, Indy is the better matchup for the finals.
Without question.
They were the better team through the vast majority of that series. So, I mean, not only did they earn the right to be there, but also I think that the Knicks would have had a much tougher time with Oklahoma City than Indy. I mean, look, Oklahoma City is minus 750 for a reason. Like, they are a huge favorite to win the series. Neither team was going to be given a chance by the public at large. But I think that Indiana presents the more interesting of the two matchups. So I don't care that New York is based in New York. And also, like, with League Pass and guys being, guys can be visible all over the world. It doesn't just have to be in one market. I mean, Giannis has spent his entire career in Milwaukee and won a title and has a global fan base. I don't know that you have to be in LA or New York or Miami or Chicago. I mean, Chicago's been bad for a long time.
Certainly not today. Certainly not today's NBA. Maybe that would have been a thing 20, 30 years ago. Not today.
Yeah. I mean, it's like with baseball. Like, I think the whole thing with Interleague was like, oh, people like in New York, like if you're a Yankees fan, you never get to see Barry Bonds. So this gives us a chance to see Barry Bonds. But I mean, nowadays with technology, you can see any team any hour of the day. So it's not like it was in the 60s or the 70s where you just didn't have access to watching those guys. And that's why All-Star games was such a big deal. Like, we can see any of these games, like you were mentioning before. Like, the reason why I'm not watching hockey is because on a Wednesday night at 7, I'll be watching Atlanta and Charlotte play. In addition to whatever's on TV. So I'll have a second screen going, and I won't have another sport on the second screen. I'll have another, like, NBA game going, but like I have access to seeing those players, whereas many years ago you just didn't have that access.
Yeah. Do you have a problem with the Eastern Conference MVP?
I don't know that I would say a problem, but I would have voted for Halliburton. I mean, I saw the way the vote went. I mean, it was a 9-person vote.
5-4.
And it was 5-4. So I mean, it was certainly close. I think it was a case of trying to outthink the room. I mean, like, yes, Siakam was very good for long stretches of the series, but I would argue that like Halliburton is the engine that makes the team go. And I would also liken it like, look at the Giants when they won their second Super Bowl. I mean, you could make the argument like they could have picked between like 7 different guys, especially with guys on defense winning MVP, and they defaulted to Eli because they're like, he made the plays in the fourth quarter when they needed him to, and he's the,
it was like
Mahomes 2 years
ago. It was like Mahomes 2 years ago against Philadelphia. Like he didn't have a great game, but he had the couple moments in the end of the game that the stats don't pop in the way that says MVP, but. Yeah, he had the moments. I get it. I do think the reason why I'm not bothered by this though. I mean, probably like whatever, it can go neck and neck. The reason why I think they voted this way though is that I think of the two guys, Halliburton was the one guy that had the massive dip, the one big dip in Game 5, true. 8 points. That's it. Like Siakam did have dips, but the dips weren't as pronounced as Halliburton's. Halliburton had 8 points in Game 5. I think it was Siakam's worst game in the series. He had like 14 points or 11 points maybe. So I mean. And then you have Siakam had like 2 or 3 explosions in the series. Like he had a 39-point game on I think on Saturday, and I think another 40 or close 40-point game on early in the series. So I think that probably gave Siakam the advantage there and added with the Halliburton dip. Having said that, we all know that the best player that's in that game on that team is Halliburton, and obviously the things he does outside of scoring is very, very valuable. Obviously. But I'm not bothered by everybody else's. I know Bill Simmons was a little bothered by it on this podcast, but I think whatever.
No, I'm definitely not bothered by it. I mean, I could see the argument for it. I would have voted for Halliburton, but I can totally see why Siakam got the votes, and it's not something that I would lose sleep over. So I don't know why.
Yeah.
Well, Bill Simmons might have had money on Halliburton winning series MVP,
knowing him,
before the series started. So I mean, if that was his direction, that's why he would be bothered by it.
So let's do this before we preview the finals. Let's go ahead and put a bow on these next 2 teams who got eliminated in this last round. We'll go to the first team, Minnesota, that got eliminated last week. What kind of letter grade are you giving them to end the year?
I'll give both. I'm gonna have the same grade for both teams. I'm gonna go with a B+ for Minnesota. I think that only reason B+, just because they didn't get to the finals, and also given where they got to, they didn't get to the finals, and also they have a fair amount of uncertainty around their roster going forward. So, I mean, I guess you could make the argument that you don't know if Randall's going to be back. You don't know if Alexander Walker's going to be back. You don't know if Naz Reid's going to be back. So, I mean, the opportunity, and it's the same for both teams, like the golden opportunity, you would say, to really, I don't want to say steal a title, but like put yourself in the mix to win a title. You don't know if Minnesota's going to be back next year. Just, that Ant's amazing and you feel comfortable with him as your centerpiece moving forward, but you might lose a lot off your roster, not necessarily gain a lot. So if that's the case, I don't know that I can count on them being back. And in fact, I'd probably bet against that. So that's why I wouldn't give them like an A or an A-, because with how deep the West is, and then you factor in San Antonio with Wemby is going to be a lot better. I mean, I think Finch, when they got eliminated, made the argument that 13 teams are going to go into next year thinking they can be in this very spot. That's not going to be the case in the East. So, I mean, if you have 13 teams thinking that they can make noise, that's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough road to get back. That's why I like where Oklahoma City is. And I feel like every other team, like they're going to have to run a gauntlet to get there. And with the uncertainty around Minnesota's roster, I feel like you're that close to getting to a finals, even though Oklahoma City is clearly better. But they didn't get over the mountaintop, and I don't know if they're going to be able to get back next year. So, but still, all in all, they got farther than I think anyone would have anticipated going into the playoffs. So that's why I didn't slot them lower.
Right. So, do you think we all crown Anthony Edwards too early, or is he on the right on the correct trajectory based on how long he's been in the league rather and whatnot. Do you think we crowned him too early?
No, I think he's on a fine trajectory. And I know people are going to make a big deal about, like, checking out of games in that series. Look, Oklahoma City is the best defense we've seen in 20 years. I mean, you probably have to go back to you have to go back to the Detroit Pistons of 2004 to find a defense that's been this dominant. So, I mean, I'm not going to criticize any of those guys for being taken out of their game. I mean, I guess you could say Randall should have stepped up with all the attention being paid to Edwards. But I mean, also at his age, at 24 years old, I mean, Tatum was still a couple of years away from winning a title. So, I mean, I think at that age, MJ hadn't won a title yet. Not that I'm comparing him to either of those two guys, just saying that he's still relatively young. So I'm not going to get worked up over things that other guys who've had success didn't learn until later on in their careers.
He's what, 4 years in the league, 5 years in the league?
I would say 5 years in the league, and putting him at 24 years old or just turned 24.
And 2 conference finals. He's doing what I would say in some cases, given the market he plays in, he's actually overachieved in a sense.
Yeah, I think it's easy for the talk show hosts to need something to scream about. But the reality is that when you take the totality of his career, like you said, he's been in the conference finals 2 years in a row at his age. That's pretty impressive, I think. And it's not like he's a finished product. Like, he'll add a mid-range jumper, I'm sure, at some point. That might be the reason why they go after KD in the offseason, is to not only give them another reliable scoring option, but also KD can, certainly help him in that respect. So, again,
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Is going to be a bunch of teams looking for him, so it's not just going to be Minnesota. But
of course, but I'm glad you mentioned that, because we talk ad nauseum about the Kevin Durant thing, and we did a draft about that, his future and all that. Is Kevin Durant, is that the best fit for him? Is that, you think, their number one target right now, that they're missing piece? Because look, Julius Randle's a free agent, obviously he'll be free agent in June. He can opt out. If he opts out, of course, I think people expect him to opt out. I think he had a good year. But if you're Minnesota, do you want Randle back? I mean, is KD the better fit?
I mean, KD's the better fit for next year, but I mean, obviously he's 37 years old. So, I mean, that's for any team that acquires him. I mean, we can make the same argument for the Knicks, because KD is going to come up ad nauseum over the next 3 weeks in relation to the Knicks, but I don't know if that's the best fit either, given his age. I mean, you're shrinking your window dramatically by making that move. Now, I guess if you're Minnesota and you're saying we're going to lose Randle anyway, and we're putting KD in his place, but then I don't know the logistics of how that trade would work. There are other teams that can offer more. So, I mean, it's going to depend on a lot of things. I mean, if Giannis, let's say, says, I'm going to stay in Milwaukee, now all of a sudden you have San Antonio, you have Houston that can easily outbid Minnesota for Durant. So, I mean, right. I think a lot's going to depend on how the chips fall. And I mean, we'll talk about the Knicks, I'm sure, in a few minutes, but there are teams that can offer better packages, I would say, than Minnesota. It's just going to depend on who gets moved where. And I mean, everybody says it's going to be a chaotic and historic period of movement for players. Minnesota doesn't have like a tremendous amount of assets. So, I mean, you're probably talking about moving Dillingham, and I don't know how the cap logistics work, especially if you're dealing with a team like Phoenix, just given their second apron issues and what they can take back in return, and given the fact that so much of Minnesota's roster, it's free agents, so you'd have to do a sign and trade, and as far as like aggregating salaries and all that, like that's going to be complicated, and they don't have a lot of picks to trade. So I'm sure that Phoenix would much rather go in a different direction if they're forced to trade Durant. I'm sure that they'd love to go to the Knicks and get Karl Anthony Towns in return if they were going to make that deal, but I don't know if that makes sense for the Knicks.
Should they want Randle to just walk? Should they want him to walk?
No, I'm sure that if they're going to move on from him, they'd probably want to do it in a sign and trade so that they could get something for him. But I don't.
I mean, there was a market for Randle. Randle's a good player. He's not. I mean, I don't want to say knock it.
Totally, but I mean, I guess I'm just uncertain the way that the offseason is going to go for Minnesota, given that they have they can't retain all three guys. So it's going to be a matter of, do you pay Naz Reid 4 years, $100 million? Do you want to give a big man $25 million coming off the bench? He might even want more than that. In this climate, I have no idea. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Randall, they're all going to want pay increases. You can't keep all of them, and so you're going to have to make a decision about who you keep, and maybe part of it is what you can get back if you're doing a sign and trade for any one of those guys.
So if you had a choice between the two, who would you pick, Naz Reid or Randall? I don't think keep both. Who's a bigger priority, you think, for the Wolves?
I would actually keep Randall. I'm sure a lot of people would say Naz Reid because he's won Sixth Man of the Year. He's a Sixth Man of the Year candidate every year. But I mean, as you saw in these playoffs, he was very hot and cold. I know Randall had some rough games against Oklahoma City, but look, who doesn't have rough games against Oklahoma City?
Yeah.
I feel like Randall, you could probably set your watch to a little more. It can be more of a dominant player inside and out. I don't know that they're going to go in that direction. For all I know, neither one of those guys are going to be back. They might do a sign and trade and then opt to just not bring one guy back, or maybe it works that way with all three. I'm not sure, but they have a lot of decisions that they're going to have to make in a relatively short period of time.
Yeah, because Randall is not a max player, but he'll probably get something close to a max, because there's always going to be a team that's going to probably try to blow, who has the space and the cap space to do it, and they need someone to and they'll probably end up being, I don't know. We'll see. They're not good players in the league.
Well, the issue for a lot of these teams is that the Nets are the only team with meaningful cap space.
Correct.
So I mean, if you include all their cap holds, I think Bobby Marks had them at 31 million yesterday. But I mean,
that's it.
Yes, but if they renounce the rights to two free agents, it gets to 60.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
even then, that's still
yeah. It's so I mean, they could conceivably sign guys, but Randall doesn't make sense for them. It wouldn't make sense for Randall. It makes
sense to Randall if they pay him a shit ton of money. Yeah, on that end, yes. I mean, he obviously he used to live in New York, so I mean, obviously that's not really a big change for him. And I mean, does it make sense for the Nets? No, not necessarily. They want to go big whale hunting, but if they're not going to get a big whale, then you gotta give what you get.
There are no big whales in free agency. Basically, Randall's the biggest whale. So I mean, I think the best use of Nets cap space would be absorbing some bad deals and taking first round picks along with it. Whether that's looking at Boston, a guy like Porzingis, I think Holiday will have a market for him, because I think there'll be teams in the West who will say, even at $30 million, he's a missing piece. They could make that argument. Porzingis, I just think there's too much uncertainty with him going forward from year to year with injuries and obviously the illness this past year. So, but I mean, could they ascertain a 26 first round pick or a 27 first round pick? Maybe it's a 27 first round pick for taking on Porzingis' contract. Mm-hmm. And you could make that argument around the league. Are there teams that are going to look to shed money so that they can make moves, and they're going to be willing to part with draft pick compensation? I mean, not that we want to get on a tangent with the Nets, but I mean, that is probably a better use of their cap space than and look, maybe they sign Alexander Walker and do that. There's a lot of ways that they can use their cap space, but I mean, that I think would probably be the best way to go about it, to get assets and try and have as many cracks at the top of the lottery for 26. That doesn't mean that's the direction they're going to go. Just saying that, if I were the GM, that's the way I would go.
Right. I gave him a B, because again, they were here last year and same situation, lost in 5 games like last year. But this team, you can argue, was probably a little bit worse than last year. I think people thought also that this team would fall back a little bit because of, losing Cat. I'm not saying Cat was this, oh my God, player, but losing Cat, you have to figure there's a little bit of transition there for them. And then the West will probably get better, and it did get better this year in some cases, and yet they still found the way to get to conference finals. And he lost to the team that right now is looking at history, one of the few teams that's won north of 6-7 games. So to me, I don't think that's a bad thing that you beat the Lakers in the first round. Granted, you caught a break with Golden State. Steph Curry got hurt in that series. He didn't play more than half of game 1. So, and maybe that goes different. I don't know, but I thought they and Edwards staying on the trajectory who he's doing. The Wolves overall, they started slow and then they caught on late. And once they got that unit together, they caught on late. So they did good. They did good. I think a B is right. Maybe even B plus. I'd say honestly. I'm concerned about the future, about what these pieces are. Are these pieces good enough to get over the hump? Like is this core here good enough to be Oklahoma City right now? I say no. They need a tweak. But you do have a player who's I at this point I'm going to get right now. And Edwards right now going to next year's the top 5 player in the league. I'm so comfortable saying. Yeah.
And that's why I would be optimistic if I'm the Wolves or Wolves fan, is that every team is striving to get that type of player, and you already have that player.
Yeah, in your back pocket,
locked up. Now, obviously,
and he's still ascending too.
Yeah, exactly. But he could they could have a bad year next year, and then he could do like another player and be like, I want to get traded to Miami. You know, I mean, and I'm sure that's
good.
I'm sure that's something Miami is waiting for. Hopefully,
good.
So I mean, yeah. But at the very least, they have that guy on their roster. Whereas it's like having a quarterback in the NFL. Like if you don't have a Mahomes or a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson or a Joe Burrow, like you're constantly looking for. Look at the Jets. I mean, they've been searching forever. Minnesota at least knows they have one of those guys, and not every team has that. So even if in 2 years that means you have to trade him, you're still trading him for such a haul that you can rebuild pretty successfully. It's not like you have to give a guy away. Right. So they at least have that asset in tow. So I mean, they've got to feel good about that.
I could definitely buy into Edwards, Kevin Durant, even the short term combo. I could buy into that.
Yeah, and I think for Durant that would make a lot of sense because you'd have Gobert in the center, and then so that wouldn't force KD to play at the 5 a lot, and so you'd have KD, Gobert, Edwards lifting doing a lot of the heavy lifting. I just don't know that it makes sense for Phoenix because Phoenix is going to be asking for the moon and the stars. I'm not saying they're going to get that. But look, a lot is going to depend on what happens with Giannis. If Giannis stays, then all of a sudden Phoenix will probably get more for Durant than they would have expected.
There will be no movement until Giannis makes a decision what's going on.
Yeah.
So Giannis is going to be first chess piece in the rest of everybody else. No one's going to make a move for Kevin Durant and everybody else until they know what Giannis is doing. If Giannis says I'm staying in Milwaukee, or just then obviously Durant's next time in the fall. If Giannis decides to want to get traded, then teams are going to climb and get him first, and then move on from there. So that's how I think the whole thing will play out for this summer. All right, next team here, of course, the last one here, the New York Knicks. What grade did you give them?
Same thing, B plus. I think that there was a lot said in the aftermath of the series, a lot of revisionist history, even though the series ended an hour ago, basically, about how poor a shape they're in, how bad their season was, how they blew this opportunity. And the reality is, like, they got to Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals. It wasn't as if they won 40 games and were a play-in team. So I think that it's easy to look at the way the last series went and say, oh, what a terrible season. Like I know Bill Simmons said, what a missed opportunity this was. And yeah, it was a missed opportunity.
It definitely is. I will say that. But, be right.
But also Indiana's really good. So, I mean, like, it's not as if, like, I think people underestimated Indiana.
I think that's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah, which is why, not that I'm looking to pat myself on the back, but I was one of the few people that I heard that went on the record picking Indiana to win that series. So like I guess it was 2 weeks ago on our show, I picked Indiana in 7. Now I was off by a game, but I think pretty much everybody had the Knicks winning that series. And I looked at it and I'm like, Indiana's played at a 61 win pace since January 1st. Like they've been the 9th rated defense. They've proven going through Cleveland and essentially making that 64 win team quit that they have a lot to offer. So I thought that the Knicks were going to have trouble matching up to them. And look, even Miami, when they assembled LeBron, Wade, Bosh, like that wasn't something that hit overnight. Like it wasn't until the second year. So, I mean, it's hard to make substantial changes and then win a title right out of the gates. Like, I'm not sure that really happens historically more than a handful of times. For the most part, it's growing pains, it's learning your system, et cetera, et cetera. So like, I don't think that it was shocking by any standpoint. You could say like, oh, they gave up too much for Bridges. Well, we said that at the time, they gave up too much for Bridges. Doesn't mean he's a bad player. It's just that there's a lot of cooks in that kitchen. and finding out how all those guys mesh together is going to be part of the thinking going forward. I'm sure they're going to explore trading pretty much everyone on the roster outside of Brunson, but I don't know that a lot of that's going to be feasible. I think that the safest course for them is probably just bringing it back. They'll have the mid-level exception. They can go out and get, I've used Gary Trent as an example before, but I don't know that Gary Trent's going to be a guy they get. But I mean, look, maybe if everything blows up in Milwaukee and they choose to break it down, maybe you can slot a guy like Bobby Portis into that mid-level exception or something like that. I mean, just using that as an example, I think that there's depth that they can add to their roster that they didn't have this year. And even if that's just one guy, that's one guy more than they had this last year. So I don't think it's the disastrous situation everyone is pegging. A lot of these guys are under contract. I know Bridges is going to be a free agent, but given that he didn't wow in the playoffs, I mean, he was good in the Boston series, but he wasn't good in the Indiana series. So, I mean, given that, I don't know that they're going to have to overpay to keep him. And none of these guys are really all that old. I mean, they're all in like their late 20s. I mean, like Cat isn't 30 yet. Brunson's not 30 yet. So, I mean, like, there's no reason.
That's funny. Cat's not 30 yet. Cat's been in the league almost 10 years. And he's
I want to say Cat's 29. So, I mean, he's close. But, I mean, it's not as if they're a team full of old guys that are going to be expiring soon. I mean, I think if you chose to keep this core together, which, no core really stays together for a long time, but you could still look at it and say for 4 years, we feel comfortable that Brunson's still going to be a great player over the next 4 years. And a lot of these role players will be too.
Cat had a phenomenal year. I told you during the year as we were doing this weeklies that he's a guy that grew on me. After all these years, I was never a fan of his until this year. Like the last year was kind of like, oh, okay, I see something here. And then this year with New York, and I thought, okay, well, that New York market is going to eat him up if you don't toughen up. And to his credit, he was actually for a little while low-key MVP candidate in the middle of the year. He grew on me this year. And you saw moments even in the playoffs where when he wants to, there are moments you watch him play, like especially in the playoffs, where you can buy yourself into thinking that this could be a best player in the league. Sometimes like he's that good. He shoots from perimeter. He's aggressive. Obviously, his defense is horrid. That's if it's a knock on him. But there are moments you look at Cass like, damn, he's good. Having said that, though, go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, and that's part of the frustrating experience of watching him play is that you see him dominate at times, like he did in Game 3 against Indiana, and then it's like, why does he then disappear at other times? So I think that's the front. And given, like you said, his defensive deficiencies, you need him to be dominant on offense, or else it's not going to work because you can't have mediocre on offense and then bad on defense.
Having said that, because I think he fits decently there with Brunson and the whole pick and roll and pick and pop thing. Having said that, though, if Giannis is on the table, do you pull the trigger on that if you're New York?
They would certainly try. There's no doubt about that. And one thing I was going to say about Cat, because I was going to mention him in regards to trades, especially for guys like Giannis, is that people look at him because of the size of his contract as some sort of terrible asset because he makes so much money. It's like the guy was an all-NBA player. That slots him in the top 15 guys in the league. He's not like...
Oh, dude, right now, if we're ranking guys right now, not to cut you off there, if we're ranking guys right now going to next year, Karl Towns is in my top 15 now.
Yeah, and that's what the NBA said by voting him all-NBA. So, I mean, he averaged 25 and 12. Even in the Indiana series, I think he was at 21 and 12. So this idea that this guy can't play dead is ridiculous. He's not a bad player by any stretch. The issue with him is that he's got defensive deficiencies, and I don't know that the fit with Brunson is ideal. On the offensive end, it's great, but in terms of guarding good teams in the Eastern Conference Finals and the finals, like they're going to exploit that, which is why I picked Indiana to win the series, because I thought that they were going to have trouble guarding the pick and roll. I thought they were going to have trouble with Indiana's depth. And defensively, they had a lot of issues. The Knicks had their most success when either one of Towns or Brunson wasn't on the floor. So I think when you're playing a team like in Oklahoma City, like in Indiana, like whomever, where Boston ran into trouble was that they stopped attacking that and they went into 1 against 5. Like I'm saying, even when Tatum was healthy, it was 4 guys standing around and Tatum going 1-on-1. Like they basically let the Knicks off the hook by doing that. But back to the Giannis thing, Cat alone plus the few things they have to offer is not going to be enough. It would be swaps. It'd be 1 first-round pick. That's not going to be enough. At that point, they'd probably have to move Bridges or Anunoby or somebody like that to another team for assets that they would then use. So, I mean, now you're looking at you need to get rid of 2 guys to bring Giannis in here, and then what does the team look like after that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're making a trade, I saw it floated out there in a couple places. You trade Mikal Bridges to San Antonio for obviously not a huge package, but if you get like 2 picks for him and Keldon Johnson and some depth, can you then turn around and flip those picks with Towns over to Milwaukee, and is that palatable for them? That's a lot of movement. That's a huge overhaul. I feel like that would also probably require Giannis saying, I want to go to New York and New York only. Which, look, I guess anything's possible, but look, San Antonio, Houston, like those teams can beat those trade packages just because of the quality of picks that they have.
I don't see the fit though, to be honest. Like playing with Brunson, I don't see the fit. I don't.
I mean, it's a much better fit than Towns, only because Giannis
is it really?
Well, Giannis is a phenomenal defender.
Well, I'm talking about offensively. I guess offensively. Yeah, I think that's one of the big issues. I think really with this is that you have 2 guys in Brunson and Cat that are close to a 0 on defense. Is going to get. It's one thing to have 1 guy like that on your starting lineup, but to have 2 guys, and the worst part of the 2 guys are your 2 best players. You know what I mean? It's a weird combo.
Yeah, I mean the Knicks offense is fine. Like I'm not. They don't need to make any changes there. But the issue is, why won't this team, as constructed, be able to win a title? It's going to be on the defensive end, because you can't have 40% of your starting lineup basically being a hindrance on defense. Like a good team is going to exploit that, and that's exactly what Indiana did. And then in Game 6, they started trying to play drop to protect Cat, and then Halliburton just went floater. So I mean, like they basically waited all game for them to try and make an adjustment in the pick and roll, and then it's like, okay, we're going to put Towns in a drop, and then they just ate that alive. So it's a tough road to sled with 2 dominant offensive players that are both liabilities on defense. So that's the only reason why I say Giannis would be a much better fit there, given that he's really good defensively. But the issue is you have to gut your team essentially to pair him with Brunson. And then for Giannis, what sense does that make? I mean, I guess Anunoby, Hart, Brunson, and Giannis is definitely better than what they have in Milwaukee, but you're still going to run into the issue of no depth. And then going up against teams like Indiana, like teams in the West, they're going to try 8-9 guys out there that are really good. That's tough, I would say. So, and look, it might be more than just Bridges and Towns. It might also be Deuce McBride. It might also be Hart. I mean, like you might have to move a lot of guys to get the assets required to do it.
Yeah.
To where it would be prohibitive.
And yet, a part of me feels like they should wait, because it's not like the trek to the finals next year is going to be any tougher than it was this year. Boston is probably in transition. And there's no Tatum next year on top of that. Milwaukee, we discussed, maybe in transition. Cleveland is trying to figure things out after their loss. So if your one competition right now guaranteed next year is Indiana, and he lost in 6, and one of those losses was by a miracle in Game 1. New York's not in a bad place either. I understand the desire to want to improve the team, but I would be very cautious in gutting the team also too, in a sense as well. So you got to play. I think their bigger issue really is coaching. I think if anything, I think Tom Thibodeau, for as good a good defensive guy as he is, to have these 2 guys just not be prepared and just be zeros. Like Jokic is not. Nikola Jokic is not a great defender. He's not a 0 though. You know what I'm saying? He shows effort. I think a lot of it has to do with effort.
I mean, my expectation is that Thibodeau is going to be back, and I don't even know. And I don't even know if that's the wrong decision, because then the argument becomes, if you're replacing him, who are you replacing him with? And then you're looking at Taylor Jenkins and Michael Malone. Mm-hmm. And I would make the argument that Denver looked a lot more cohesive and a lot more dangerous once they fired Malone. So I mean, like I think that his I don't want to say antics, but his personality grates on guys much the same way that you could make the argument that the way Tibbs coaches guys grates on guys. So I don't know that that is like a seamless transition. And now look, if you think that this group of players just needs a new voice and a new scheme, then you can go ahead and fire him. But like, I don't know that he did enough to warrant losing his job, given that there's not an obvious solution that makes everything better. Because even, let's say you hire Taylor Jenkins, like Memphis underachieved for a while there. So I mean, it's not as if he was taking them to the conference finals every year. Like, it's been Minnesota that's going to the conference finals every year. Yeah. And a total aside here, getting off topic, but I mean, I think lost in history will be how good a job Jokic and that Nuggets team did by taking Oklahoma City to 7 games in that series, because we could be looking at this in 5 years saying that Oklahoma City turned into a dynasty of San Antonio level proportions, mainly because of how restricted the second apron is, and the fact that Oklahoma City is just positioned perfectly to navigate it.
Between assets, between everything they, the players do have currently. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, they can re-sign Chet and Shea and J-Dub to these max deals, and maybe Case and Wallace to like a sizable deal. And then all the rest of their depth, they can just cycle in with guys on rookie contracts that are making nothing. Like, there's going to be a way for them to navigate it that other teams just aren't going to be able to.
It's all about timing, man.
Yeah. So I mean, they didn't trade away all their assets, which is going to be a help to them. Like, next year, they're going to get this guy, Nikola Topic, who everyone said would have been a top 5 pick last year. He tore his ACL, so they got him later in the draft. But I mean, he can slot right in and play, and he's not going to be making any money. So I mean, like, you can give Shea this massive extension, and then you've got a guy on his rookie deal, and then maybe 4 years later, you trade Topic and you reset with valuable picks. So the way that they've navigated their salary cap situation and how they're positioned to go forward, I mean, you have 2 teams that are going to be in the finals. Neither one of them is even paying the luxury tax, which I think the stat was that the last team to do that was the Lakers when they were in the bubble. And obviously, like, the league has gotten more restrictive since then. So, I mean, in terms of salary and all that. So,
right.
I think that they deserve credit for that. But to my point about Jokic and the Nuggets, I think that that's going to be lost in history about how competitive they were, given how good Oklahoma City is.
Yeah, I give the Knicks this is tough. I went B+. Although I had them going to the finals before the year started. People forget that. But at the same time, they did still in some ways do better than I thought they would do the playoffs, because I was not impressed with their season necessarily. I thought there was a lot of flaws there. We discussed Tom Thibodeau's job security. We said he had anything less than a 6-game loss to Boston was a failure, and he had to be gone. He certainly surpassed that, beat Boston in 6 games and took the Indiana in 6 games. So they've done the right things. So they sort of underwhelmed in some ways for me coming to the year, but they also overachieved in ways that I didn't think they'd do. So I think B+ is right there. I think if you're a Knicks fan, you should be very happy your team one's very relevant, and has been relevant a couple of years now. Like, we live in an era where for the last 25 years, you may get one good Knicks year every 10 to 12.
Yeah, and I think you made the best point possible, is that the state of the East next year, I mean, if the Knicks just bring this team back and use their mid-level exception to add another depth piece, they just show up and they're a top 4 seed. I mean, like, without doing any work, like, whatsoever. They just walk into the season as a top 4 seed and likely a 2nd or 3rd seed again. So, I mean, like, they don't really have to do anything to be viable in the East next year, given Boston's situation. Now look, a team like Orlando or Detroit could make some big swings in the offseason, and maybe that changes how we think about things. But as of right now, like, you feel pretty comfortable saying the Knicks will have home court advantage in the playoffs next year. Why are you going to fire your coach, trade 2 or 3 of your guys, and do all that, given that you can pretty much show up next year, which is probably the same pitch as we talked about last week that Milwaukee's going to make to Giannis. Say, hey, the East is wide open. We were probably the most competitive team with with the Pacers, and they're in the finals right now. So we trade one pick. We bring even without Lillard. Let's say we turn that one pick into John Collins and Colin Sexton because Utah is trying to tank again. You could make an argument for them being in the top 4. So I mean, like that's going to be the argument that they're going to make, and the argument that every team in the top 8, 9, 10 is going to make in the East. If you're Atlanta, if you're Orlando, Miami, I mean, Miami makes one move, they go out and acquire Durant, and we're having the same conversation, but they could be a top 4 seed.
Yeah. So it should be interesting offseason. Both these teams we just covered, Minnesota and New York, what they do. All right, NBA Finals preview. Here we go. The Thunder will win the NBA Finals if what?
If they stay healthy. I have the Thunder winning this series in 5. And now keep in mind, I was the only person on the Indiana bandwagon last series. So like
you were.
So I'm a believer in them. I just think that they've gotten here. And this isn't a knock, but like they've had great coaching to where they've pretty much picked on the other team's weakness in every series. So I mean, the Knicks can't guard the pick and roll with Cat and Jalen Brunson. You know, one game we're going to throw 25 pick and rolls at Jalen Brunson, which I think the number was. Yeah. You know, in the case of Cleveland, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell's not an ideal backcourt. We're going to take advantage of that. We're going to force Jared Allen or Evan Mobley to come out and guard turn at the 3-point line and open up the paint. And then we're going to attack you that way. You can't attack Oklahoma City. There's not one weakness defensively on their team. I mean, I guess the way that Indiana makes this series competitive is Oklahoma City can go through stretches on offense where maybe they're not lights out. So if you can get out and run against them, I guess that's the strategy. And Indiana is also a very low turnover team. So they have the potential to protect the ball against Oklahoma City. So those are two things. But Oklahoma City, as I said before, is probably the best defensive team in the last 20-something years. I mean, they're just going to have body after body after body that they can throw at Halliburton. And it's going to be a lot of pressure on Nembhard, on Nesmith to play not just good, but great elite level offense in addition to being viable on the other end. I think it's asking a lot of Indiana not having a matchup that they can attack. So I would say 5 games, not saying the games won't be competitive, just saying that I think that it's going to take the game that Halliburton had when we had all the superstar discussions of him having the 15 assists, 0 turnovers. Like, you're going to have those 30-point games from him.
They're required definitely in this series.
Yeah, if you have anything like what he did in Game 5, I mean, you're losing that game by 45 points. So I mean, like, he needs to play at the superstar level he did at times in the series, but he doesn't get a night off, basically.
No, and I'm with you too. I have Thunder in 5 for the same reason. I've been telling people too also, like, I think this series is going to be competitive game to game because these two teams are very competitive teams. I just think that Oklahoma City has too much in the bank to have an extra reservoir. You know, they have the extra oomph to go over the hump. Would it surprise you to go 6? No. Would it even surprise you if Indiana, let's say you get the Halliburton games, you're saying that he is required to win this series, or be in the series rather. Would it surprise you if Indiana wins the series? I mean, a little bit, but I wouldn't be terribly shocked because I think Indiana's good, really good. I think we're not. A lot of people's lack of basketball knowledge it's showing in this series. How's the Thunder here? Oh, they won 68 games. How? Like, yeah, they're really fucking good. Okay. Yeah. The Pacers have been playing. You said at a 60-win pace since January 1st.
Yeah. They're
really fucking good. You know, you have to acknowledge that. So quit focusing on the Lakers and the Warriors and LeBron and Steph and all big market teams. There are, dude, parity is back in the NBA. Thank God. We're going to have a new champion for the 7th year in a row. Thank God.
Yeah, and I think Indiana would have been very live to win the title this year if they were playing pretty much anyone except Oklahoma City. Like, if they were playing Denver, I would think that Indiana would have every bit of chance to win that series. They probably wouldn't be favored, but I might even pick them to win that series, just given their depth and the speed at which they play and forcing Jokic to run up and down the floor. I just think that with the athletes that Oklahoma City has, the lack of targets that you can go with them, the bodies they can throw at Halliburton, I think they're going to make life miserable for him. I think also two of his, I can't remember how many it was, but two of his worst usage rating games were against Oklahoma City this year.
Right. Right.
And
now,
that was without Chet playing, because people forget that Chet missed a large portion of the season, which is why SGA had my vote for MVP.
Same here.
A lot of the season they didn't have Hartenstein, then Hartenstein comes back, they don't have Chet. So I mean, like, they had to play a lot of games without their full complement of players.
Absolutely.
So I think that they have a very deep team. In addition to Indiana being deep, they don't have any weaknesses on defense. Maybe in their rotation, Isaiah Joe is the only guy that they'll throw out there who isn't like a great defender. But other than that, like, they're going to roll out 7-8 guys who can all be plus to elite defenders, which I think is going to be tough on Indiana. And also, like, another thing that I don't know that many people have mentioned, like, what's the state of Neesmith's ankle? Like, how bad is his ankle? Because if he's not, like, he's their best defender. He was the one that they stuck on Jalen Brunson and felt the best about that matchup. If he can't go out there at 100%, that's also, Shea is going to take advantage of that, getting to the free throw line and blow-bys and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, they need him healthy. I'm sure that the 5 days off certainly helps, but I feel like there's a lot going against Indiana in this series for as good as they've been. And I mean, again, nothing, I guess, has really surprised me given how good they've been since January 1st. I just don't think this is a great matchup for them, which is why I took Oklahoma City in 5.
Now, that being said, the Pacers will pull the upset if
Halliburton plays like he did in Game 4 against the Knicks. I mean, if that is the version of him that they're getting, and Siakam plays at the level that he played at, if those two guys play at that level, maybe they start throwing zone at Oklahoma City, forcing some other guys to make outside shots. Maybe they can get out and run. If you're getting great defense from Siakam and you're getting 22 points a game and Halliburton is playing at an elite level, giving you double-digit assists and low turnovers, I could see them making it competitive, but I don't know that I expect that regularly throughout a 7-game series, given how good Oklahoma City is on defense.
Right. Like I said, I'm with you. I have the Thunder in 5. I think we'll have a good conversation about Halliburton's, his ascent to superstar stardom. Obviously, SGA is now probably gonna be a top 3 player now by the time these finals are over. It should be a phenomenal series. It should be a really good series game to game. But I just think Oklahoma City has just too much weapons, and I think it's just that simple. So you're not in the same boat. Thunder in 5.
And we were in the same boat on the grades for the postseason with the
the
Knicks. So I mean, not much dissension here.
No dissension here, and like I said, I'm looking forward to the offseason. Though I'm looking forward to the series, but like I said, in the day, Oklahoma City's been phenomenal. I'm looking for them to win the whole thing because I love SGA, and I love that team just feels like together and feels like a team. You know what I mean? So, and they look like a dynasty in the making. Looks like it.
And also Vegas opened the series at 7-1 odds for Oklahoma City, so it was like minus 750 a day or two after those other series ended. So I mean, like, if Indiana somehow won the series, it would be an historic win from that standpoint.
If you have the money,
throw
some bones in it. Who knows? Anything is possible. Indiana feels like 2004 Detroit Pistons to me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, that's not wrong. I mean, like, I would be shocked if they won this series, but I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if it went 6. I mean, Indiana's played so well for a long period of time, so I'm not ruling them out of being competitive game to game. And even if they took it 6, it wouldn't shock me. But I mean, I would be shocked if Oklahoma City didn't find a way to win this series after how they've looked for long stretches. Not just in winning games, but like they are winning games in blowout fashion. I think it was in the playoffs, their average margin is 13-point victories. Like, they're not just winning games, they're blowing teams out, good teams. So I feel like it's a tough road for Indiana. But hey, it's the finals. These are supposed to be the two teams that have played the best in the respective conferences.
Right. Anyway, follow Greg on Twitter, or actually call it now at Gee Hrinya NBA. That's GHRINYA. Of course, author NBA analyst with us every week on the podcast. It's getting sad though. We're winding down everything here, man. I mean,
yeah, we'll have a lot to discuss in the off season.
Definitely.
But I would say probably like second week of July, you're probably looking at things being quiet for a while.
Yeah, unless free agency really pops off, for some reason things pop off in the trade wise. I mean, and look, trades can happen before free agency also too, because
I would expect a lot of that activity to happen around the draft. So I think by the time July 1st rolls around, a lot of these trades will either be done or in the works, would be my guess. So I think that because if you're making big trades, you're swapping draft capital and you're probably swapping the picks that you have in this draft. And those picks become less valuable once another team makes them. So, I mean, if you're Toronto taking a big swing with the 9th pick, the team that you're trading it to wants to select their own guy. They don't want to be at the mercy of who you thought was the 9th best player. So I think you'll see a lot of activity probably in the week leading up to the draft around draft night. So I mean, we're probably looking at June 20th to July 1st as like your peak activity levels. Right.
I agree with you 100% on that one. Anyway, Greg, I'll see you next week. Enjoy the first 2 games of the finals, because I'll game 2 is on Sunday, I believe. So we'll check in and see. It's actually perfect. We'll check in and see where we're at in the finals 2 games in. So
sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Good job, brother. All right, we're now joined here by returning guests. It's been a while since last we spoke to him was actually during the season preview. It is now the big. There's no question the biggest Florida Panthers fan on the fucking planet is my friend Matt Fagan, aka Superfan, or the former Superfan, I guess I'll call him. I don't know.
Today it's the Macho Fan.
Yeah, he's wearing the Macho Man now. Felt like it, man. That's the
ending NHL champions. We've got the Stanley Cup belt, and that's what it's all about. The championship. Yeah.
Did you I don't remember this when we talked October. Did we pick the rematch last? I know I did. Did you pick the rematch also for the Cup?
Oh no! I picked those Dallas Stars, and well, it didn't go too good. I thought they'd do a little better. They kind of got body slammed in 5 by those Edmonton Oilers. Yeah, so that pick didn't work out too good. But I picked the Panthers to get me back. Oh yeah, because they're the cream. Cream in the National Hockey League. Nobody does it better. Yeah,
we almost got there with the Stars, but honestly, that should have been a sweep though, because the one game the Oilers lost, they gave that game away in game 1.
Yeah, it's like Ottinger turned into a college goalie all at once.
Yeah,
looking at how he played all year, that's what I thought was going to be the difference was the goaltending.
Yeah.
But they're up against Bobrovsky next.
But you're not surprised. Easy. But you're not surprised we have the rematch, right? You're not surprised at all, right?
No, a little, but not much. I mean, they do have decent defense, and when Skinner's on, yeah, but he's so inconsistent. I mean, he'll look like a Vezina winner, and then he'll give up 6 goals the next game.
Yeah.
But I didn't think the goaltending was going to be up to snuff, but Dallas just kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
Because my bracket was almost perfect until that West Final.
Right. No, I was thinking about this too. Also, because like a lot of people can claim, oh, they're a Panthers fan, but obviously you're the one. And I know for a fact you're a day one. You're a day one guy since 1993, since the franchise started. And you've been a South Florida sports fan in general for the same amount of time, not longer. I want to ask you.
Son of Florida, just like Randy Savage. Yeah,
that's right. So I want to ask you this though, because I think you appreciate this question, because we've had moments where like certain teams have done things where they've meant something culturally to the town, to the city, something into the league. You know, like the Miami Hurricanes in the 80s. They win 5 titles, 84, 91. Yeah, right.
But I mean, it's always been surf, sun, and fun, and maybe our teams do something every here and there. I mean, the Marlins bought a World Series. That was kind of fun. 17-0 Dolphins season, 72. But other than that, before my time, I ain't that old.
Right. The Panthers winning a cup for the second year in a row. They'll be the first repeat champion since once. It's been a while since we get a repeat champion, right? It's been a little bit.
Yeah, right? 4 whole years.
Who was it 4 years
Lightning
ago?
in 2020 and 2021.
Oh yeah, Lightning won in 2020. I mean,
Yeah,
controversial
guys.
it may be, controversial as it may be, but I feel like this is special because this will be obviously 2 Stanley Cups, but it's also in 3 appearances, and then the year before that they had a President's Cup trophy. I feel like this Panther team, this 4 or 5 year run of Panthers hockey, I think would measure in a very high regard to some of the greatest, sports, teams of sports legacies in this market would have ever seen.
No one up north will admit it. They saying, oh, it's the income taxes. The refs don't call anything, and it's a lot of whining. But it seems the only people that down here that are appreciating just how good this franchise has been for the last 4 years, are down here.
Yeah. And I think,
I'm soaking it up, man. I mean, there'd be times I'd be in my section by myself back in the dark days. And I said, you know what? They're going to turn this around someday. I said, y'all laughing at me now, but there's going to come a time when they're going to figure it out and they're going to turn this around and we're going to be a contender. And they're like, sure. Okay.
I've always said that.
Who's laughing now?
Like last year, like when they won it, like obviously a lot of friends of mine who are Panthers fans, and some of them been, a long time. But you're the only one I can say that without unequivocally loyal to the bone. Even, and I know this, we've been friends for almost 20 years. You were going to Panthers game on a regular basis when they were fucking bad.
Season tickets for 25 years and only 5 of them good.
Yeah, exactly. So I was obviously happy for the town, but more happy for you and everybody else, because I like seeing fans who are loyal and they stick to it, because not because we all make choices. People can decide to cheer for other teams, and that's fine. That's their right, whatever they do. But for you to stick to it, with all the regime change and stuff, and and this staying with it, I think there's certain fans I have certain more respect for. There you go.
So I have my own number.
Right, exactly.
It's not for fun. That's the number they gave me in 2003.
Yep, that's right. So I'm so happy for you and what this team has been doing in this market. And honestly, the Dolphins have been kind of meh the last couple of years. The Heat have got a little bit of a tail off now last year or so. The Marlins are still pretty bad. So the Panthers are right now the shining star right now in this market. It's been great to actually have that, honestly.
That's why we need 4 more wins. A lot of losing in this town.
Let me ask you a question.
4 more wins and another cup.
Having said that, the Oilers will win the cup if what?
God himself wills it. No, but no, the Oilers will win the cup if the Panthers drink the Kool-Aid, if we don't get playoff Bobrovsky, if we get 4 Golski, when he was having his down years, like the first 4 years of that contract he's got. Skinner plays like he did in games 4 and 5 of the West Final, and just really stymies our guys. Home ice won't mean much. Panthers are 8-2 on the road. So you know what? They can have home ice. We actually haven't done too good at home. 4-3.
That's right.
So far.
Yeah, they which is weird because they have Oilers as a very, 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 very slight favorite. And I said maybe because of the home ice advantage, that is it. Because I would argue, while people say the Oilers got better this year compared to last year, so did the Panthers.
Yep. They said, how do you replace Montour and Oliver Ekman-Larsson? Like with Nate Schmidt and Seth Jones at the deadline. And then you threw in Brad Marchand,
right?
Who he doesn't have that highest gear anymore because he's 37. But they put him on the third line, and he's been magnificent. It's a perfect fit for him.
Right. Conner McDavid, a cup. How old is he now? Conner McDavid.
Conner McDavid.
28.
Yeah,
right?
he's not. He's going to turn 28. I mean, came in at 18. It's his 9th year. I really don't like people in sports talking about legacies, because for me, what is legacy? What does it mean? It's, do you win the championship that year or not? That's should everybody's focus on, and forget legacy and all that other stuff. let history make their own judgments.
But it does shape the conversation. Like, we don't talk about other guys unless, okay, how many rings they got? That's always been the conversation. And look, you and I think, have the same perspective about rings. Like, rings do matter, but they're not the argument. They're not the reason why this X, Y, and Z player is the best at their field. You know what I'm saying? Like, Michael Jordan is for me because he's 6-0. There's other things he did outside of 6-0 that he did that made me believe that he is the player of all time in the NBA history. Same with Gretzky and who did in hockey. But we be fooling ourselves to not thinking that a Stanley Cup for Conner McDavid does change the conversation. Like, where would he? Well, I guess for you, and then for everybody else who follow the NHL more than I do, where is Conner McDavid like ranked among all-time greats? Like obviously he's the best player in the league today, but is he someone that people look at as a top 10 player all time?
All time?
That's what I'm asking.
We're including goalies. I don't think he's top 10 yet if we're throwing goalies in there, because there's 2 or 3 goalies I'd put in there. And I wouldn't put him ahead of guys like Bobby Orr or Gordie Howe or even Maurice Richard yet. Because he's still, he's still in the middle of his career. Like, maybe he gets there someday.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, it's like another reason I don't like the legacy argument, because I'm like, if Conner McDavid was 38 and thinking about hanging him up, we could talk about it a little bit, but it's still way too early for him.
But we have to agree, though, a Stanley Cup title especially against this Panther team that is right now building a dynasty right now. Let's just say what it is.
Yeah, he'll get one. Not this year.
It'll go along, probably, but if it does happen, it goes a long way than having that conversation, though. Would you agree?
Depends on where he goes when his contract is up. His contract is up after next year, and there's already talk about him leaving Edmonton because
really,
I don't think he can win with that.
So their window's pretty much
ownership's not there, and
so their window.
Yeah, I say that because of their depth. I mean, Zach Hyman's out, so it's basically that top line and a half of a second line.
Yeah,
and Conner McDavid can only do so much because he played almost half the game in Game 7 last year.
Right.
Because they just didn't have the depth. And by the middle of the third period, he looked like he could barely move. He was gassed, which is why Edmonton really couldn't put up anything in the last 10 minutes, and Florida could just play trap.
Yeah. Obviously, you'll love this question, but I'll send to you anyway. The Florida Panthers will win the Stanley Cup if what?
If they just play the way they've been playing and the way they can. They're 4 lines deep. I mean, our third line could start on a handful of teams. If Playoff Bob shows up and he keeps putting that up and they keep playing that violent forechecking style, don't even let Edmonton's guys breathe. When we have the puck in the offensive zone, just hit the hell out of them and wear them down. That's what we did in the first 3 games last year and in Game 7. We took our foot off that gas, and that's when they came back.
People forget that. People forget that now. I know, obviously, you don't, but a lot of people forget, like, especially casuals. Like, Florida was up 3-0 that series, and they were running away with the series, and then they came back, and then even Game 7 was nip and tuck there. Very nervous.
Yeah,
and I know you're there. You were there in the building for that Game 7. You were sweating, weren't you?
10 worst 10 days of my life as a hockey fan. The time between Games 4 and 7. I
remember going to work with you, like you were on edge those last couple of days.
We were up 3-0. They're like, "Congratulations!" I'm like, 3 wins, 8-4. We ain't won nothing yet.
What did Kobe say? Job's not done. Job's not done. That's simple. No,
and I think they learned that from last year. A lot of the guys that were on last year's team, and should they be fortunate enough to be 3-0 again, they won't repeat that mistake.
No,
they'll
I don't think it will.
Foots on the necks and close it out.
Especially, you kind of saw that clue that last series that went up against Carolina, and then they lost the 4th game, and they're like, we're not doing this shit.
Right, we're not doing this. They played a bad game and said, okay, laughy jokey fun time's over.
Well, to be fair, they would have missed like 4 guys in that game, though.
Yeah.
So,
they weren't hitting, and their passing was kind of sloppy. They couldn't get the transition game going. I mean, it was, except for Bob, it was a bad game all around. And then we got some of them guys back, and they're like, let's not monkey around. Edmonton's probably going to close it out quick. So if we want some rest for our banged up guys, we need to end this.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So, what do you have this series going? I mean, I think I know who you could pick with the series, but how many games? Why? And I guess again, if this happens to the Panthers, how big a deal is it going to be for the city going forward?
Panthers.
Panthers 6
Wait, lifting the cup at Amerant Bank Arena in front of the home fans. Yep.
You said 6 games, right? Okay.
Yeah.
2-2-1-1.
Do the math.
That 2-2. No, that 2-2-1-1 format though.
2-2-1-1-1. Edmonton has home ice this time.
No, I know, but it's funny because like one of the most underrated things last year we were talking about last year in the series that the distance between Edmonton and Florida flight wise,
it's a hole.
And by the way, is every game one day off? That's it.
No, it's every other day until you travel, and it's 3 days between games.
Okay.
So Cats are gonna fly up there today, and then they're gonna have the game Wednesday, and then a game Friday, and then Monday will be game 3.
Okay.
In Sunrise.
Yeah. So if you're any of these teams, you want to end this series as fast as possible because especially when you keep traveling back and forth. Because once you get to game 5, when you have to do the 1-1-1 possibility, yeah, if you're sick of flying and back and forth, you want to get this shit done ASAP because the distance to Edmonton. What was the number? It was like how many miles between South Florida and Edmonton?
I think they had the graphic on. I just saw it. It's something like 2,700 each way.
Each way.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
It's the furthest. It's the longest trip possible, except one, and that would be if Florida met Vancouver in the Stanley Cup Final.
Right.
It'd be like a little. It wouldn't even be much further. It'd only be like another 50 miles, I think.
Right. So, like, it behoove whoever has control of the series early, if it does happen that way, that they take care of business and close it out. Because then travel.
Another reason I wanted Dallas, because Dallas is closer than a lot of Eastern Conference teams.
That's another underrated thing, especially there too. All right, one last thing to get out of here. We just got word also a couple days ago that Alexander Ovechkin, Ovi, announcing that next year will be his last. Ovechkin, where is he ranked for you all time? His legacy, I know I hate legacy talk, but he's at the end of his career actually though. So it's actually
he's top 10.
He's top 10 all time.
Yeah, all-time NHL goal scorer. I mean, he's not close to the points, and he wasn't the playmaker that Gretzky was, but I'd slot him 2 behind Gretzky. And he did get a cup despite playing on some bad Washington. They finally figured it out. They got 1 cup, so that definitely helps.
Yeah, I always compared him to LeBron in a sense. Like his career is very similar to LeBron, where like he's done the things, the points, like obviously LeBron, being an all-time scoring leader, but most people will still agree that Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time, and I think most people in the NHL circles believe that Wayne Gretzky is the greatest of all time still in terms of what he's done.
Yeah, Ovechkin could play another 15 years and not get to Gretzky's point record.
that part's insane.
That's
and I feel like not enough people talk about that today. Honestly, I'm surprised.
Well, I mean, assists matter. Assists makes the plays. Gretzky was not only a dynamic goal scorer, he could read the game. He was crazy hockey smarts, and he could find just those open guys and set up goals. And it doesn't really matter who scores your goals, as long as the team wins.
Right.
But Ovechkin, he doesn't really have that many assists compared to some other all-time greats. So I mean, he's definitely he'll drive the net. But he takes it on himself. It's kind of a little bit selfish. I mean, you don't mind when you're, the NHL all-time leader.
Yeah, of course.
If your guy's a little selfish, but it does make it fairly predictable for the opponent. They're like, shut down Ovi, you beat Washington.
That's very true. That's very, very true. Anyway,
so you could shut Gretzky down when he played. You still got to shut down Messier and all those other guys.
Right.
And good luck with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything you want to plug? You want to plug a Twitter? If you want to follow you during the series, because I'm sure you'll be tweeting a little bit on there.
Nah, I've kind of taken a break from social media this year.
Really?
Hung up my cape, and I've just been sitting back, chilling. A little chirp here and there, but mostly at the crying Toronto fans.
Did you go to any playoff games this year?
No, just watching at home. Gave up my season tickets. Last year was my last year with the season tickets, and got a mini plan. But I'll be going to all the arena watch parties. All the road games are going to be having the watch party on the big screen. And I'll probably go down to the Iceplex in Lauderdale, where they practice for the home games, because they project the screen on the big screen and you could skate.
Yeah.
It'll be a fun time.
Any
$700, cheapest ticket I can find.
Get the fuck out of here! Wow,
to a game, yeah.
For
a nosebleed.
Any chance you'll be back in the arena, Superfan again? No. Any chance?
No. Hung it up. Won my Stanley Cup. Flew off into the sunset.
Why not do another one?
The suit's hung up over there.
Although I gotta say though, man, you can't beat the ending you had there. I mean that is a perfect ending. You mean to ending it? Your very last game as a fan was when they won the cup, and you were there to witness it, Game 7, the whole 9.
And that's why the cape stays hung up.
Why is it? Because
it was perfect. It's like, no, just leave it. Don't mess with it.
Yeah.
Rarely is such a wonderful gift given by the sports gods.
yeah, I agree with 100%. Hey, Matt, good job as always, man. Good luck to you boys. Good luck to the boys. I think they win it. I got them in 7.
Yeah, 7. I don't like that. Gonna win the cup at home.
Win the road. On the road. I like on the road. It's more fun.
No, because then I can go down to the elbow room and maybe see the cup. Like last year. Yeah.
All right, man. Good job as always, man.
Take it.
Thank you.